second to the last chapter in Aurella the Witch. We are almost done. For this video, I'm going to save the thinking question until the end because of spoilers, but I will reveal that very soon. Let's get started. Chapter 30, Reunions and Goodbyes. Aurella sat on a bench in the palace garden, running her fingers along the petals of a nearby tree. It had been 1 day since the incident with King Slathgar, and time was ticking away until they'd be leaving Dovis for good. She sighed and closed her eyes. She didn't have to open them to know when Mavic sat down next to her.
You think you're so good at pretending you're fine, but I can always tell when something's up.
She opened an eye to glare at him.
Come on, Ella. Talk.
Aurella looked down at her hands. We've been running for so long, and the goal was always to get to Rashtika. But now that it's time to leave, I don't want to go. I miss my home. I miss thinking I was just a normal girl. I even miss Lennox and the grumpy people that live there. I want to go back to how things were before I screwed everything up. And I'm scared.
What are you scared about?
We don't know what we're going to find. We barely even know how to get there. And I thought it would be nice to go somewhere with other manipulators, but what if we get there and I'm still just as much of a freak as I am here?
You're not a freak. You saved my life, Ella. I'd have died if it weren't for you and your mixed-up powers.
Aurella glanced up with a wry smile. He responded by messing up her hair and pulling her into a hug.
Pardon me,
interrupted a smooth, tenor voice. Aurella and Mavic broke apart, and the servant handed Aurella a small roll. She had disguised her and Mavic to look like the blonde siblings again, but still felt antsy being seen and addressed by anyone other than Mavic and Morella. She unfolded the miniature scroll and read aloud. Meet me in the audience chamber in 10 minutes. M. What do you think she wants? Aurella asked.
Let's go find out.
The servant led them to the audience chamber. It was just as luxurious as the rest of the palace. Each chair was a miniature throne, and the entire west wall was a glass window overlooking the forest below. Other servants entered and brought them pastries and juice from a fruit Aurella had never even heard of. The juice was purple like grapes, but tasted like a cross between peaches and apples, and the pastries were filled with strawberries and cream. Before Aurella had even taken her first bite, there was nothing but crumbs left on Mavic's plate. When Morella entered the room, Aurella could tell from her strong posture and graceful float that she was in full queen mode. One large man walked in after her before the heavy double doors slammed shut. He had snowy white hair with a black goatee and wore a deep blue tunic with the Dovian crest across his chest. At his hip was a fancy scabbard. He looked as solid as a rock, but weathered by age. When he met Aurella's gaze, she was surprised to find that he had rather kind eyes. He walked up and kissed her hand.
It is an honor to meet you, Aurella of Lennox,
he said in a deep, mellifluous voice. Thanks, Aurella said in surprise. I'm sorry, who are you? Aurella, this is one of my advisors, Owner, Morella explained. He knows everything, so there's no need for secrecy.
When you say everything, Mavic's voice trailed off.
I mean everything, Morella confirmed.
Then what's with the queen getup?
Windows. Now, there are 2 major matters I wish to discuss. Well, 3, really. Owner, please take a seat.
Yes, Your Highness.
The first matter is of my reign. The king is dead, and I will not be queen forever. We need to find me an heir, and once they are found, I shall step down. Why? Aurella asked. You're probably the best person this country could have, and with the king dead, think of the things you could do. I will not resign immediately, not until I'm convinced that I've found suitable hands to leave the kingdom to. Every king and queen need an heir, but my life has been a lie for far too long, and frankly, I'm tired of it.
What are you gonna do? Mavic asked. Can you really just resign and choose someone else to reign in your place? No,
said Owner.
She cannot. The laws of the monarchy are definite, at least without a man.
Aurella frowned. What do you mean without a man?
Only male rulers are given power to change laws, he explained.
That's dumb, interjected Mavic. There we agree, Morella sighed.
Why not just start pretending to be the king and then change the rules? Mavic suggested.
News of his death has already spread throughout the kingdom. What about his brother? Aurella asked. Clearly you two don't keep up on your current events, Morella said with a wry smile. He and his daughter succumbed to illness last year. Mavic and Aurella glanced at each other.
Good thing we didn't disguise ourselves as them like we planned to, he said, then chuckled. Imagine the panic we'd have caused walking through the streets like dead people.
So, what are you going to do? Asked Aurella. Morella looked directly at Aurella. I need to find another heir to the throne. Her heart sank. Hang on a minute. You don't mean me? No, sweetheart. You are no more royal than I, but I need you two to help me. You see, the king and queen had no children, and each of the previous kings and queens only had one surviving heir each. It's been an unfortunate tradition in the past for princes, and sometimes princesses, to fight for the crown until there's only one left living. So, there are no heirs here in all of Dovis.
Lovely, Mavic groused. Why not just find someone you like and lie about them being a distant relative or something?
As queen, I do not hold as much power as you would think. The rest of my advisors would never allow it. No new heir can take the throne without their consent, and they would demand proof or a record of their lineage. If I do not find a suitable heir, they might force me to produce one myself. A shadow of sorrow crossed her face. And I'd rather not have a child with someone other than my husband. Aurella was astounded. She always assumed being queen meant everyone conceding to every command, not the other way around. Could she really have so little power that her own advisors could force her to do something, all because she was a woman?
Mavic exploded. That's outrageous!
Relax, Mavic, Morella said in a calm voice. I have a plan. Why don't you just manipulate everyone to do what you want? Said Aurella. I may have been able to do that at one point, but at that time I had a king to back me up. Now it's just me. If I manipulate people, they'll know. They'll revolt, and they'll win. I must tread carefully.
Unfortunately, Your Majesty, you are entirely correct, frowned Owner. I've tried to reason with the others, but if they turned on you, I'd have little luck swaying them. So what's your plan? Mavic asked, still fuming at the unfairness of it all.
There is one thing that all Dovians have in common. Our ancestry all stems from the same place. Rashtika, said Aurella. Exactly. I'm almost positive if we searched far enough back, we could find another descendant of Dovis's first king.
What was the first king's name? Mavic asked.
Dovis.
Oh, duh.
So, what's the plan? Aurella asked. Here in Dovis we do not have records of much that took place before our country was founded. To find them, one would have to travel to Rashtika.
I will go, my lady,
Owner said. No, I need you here to help me clean up this mess before our country falls to ruin. We must send someone else. She looked from Aurella to Mavic. Us? Asked Aurella.
Why not? Considered Mavic. We're going there anyway, right?
And in Rashtika you might be able to find some answers about Aurella and what she really is. 3 pairs of eyes gazed at Aurella. I'm not an alien or something, she grumbled. No, Morella said, but there is something special about you, and it's important that you figure out what that is. The less we know about ourselves, the more power others can have over us. Will you both agree to travel to Rashtika to find answers and retrieve me an heir? You will also have to determine if this heir is suitable for the crown. I will not turn my country over to another Slathgar. Are you up for the task? Aurella and Mavic turned away from Morella to discuss privately. Aurella hated herself for it, but she was hesitant taking on the challenge. It felt like every time they set out to do something, everything fell apart. I know this is really important, Mavic, and we're definitely going to Rashtika, but this whole finding an heir thing sounds a little difficult. We wouldn't have the faintest idea where to start, and honestly, I just want to break from all this craziness for a little bit. Can we just get to Rashtika and take it easy for a bit? She bit her lip, bracing herself for Mavic's argument.
Ella, I know exactly what you mean. Really, I do. But you know we can't just walk away from something important just because it's hard. This is bigger than us. We need to do this. Plus, what's one more hard thing to add to the list? Unless, of course, you don't think you're capable of doing it.
She knew he was challenging her, and it worked. Aurella sighed. I guess you're right.
Mavic winked. I'm always right, Elf. Get used to it.
Shut up, she smiled. Fine, let's do it. Like you said, what's one more hard thing? Mavic grinned and turned back to Morella.
When do we leave?
As soon as possible. It's still very dangerous for the two of you to be here. I've convinced the servants and guards for now of the king's lies, but you two are still at large outside of these walls. But never mind that for now. Morella straightened her posture. There is one other matter to get to first. You might want to remove your disguises. Owner, the curtains, please. Aurella looked at Morella in confusion. Trust me, Morella smiled. Remove your disguise. Okay. Tashta Venleta. After her hair darkened and eyes lightened to their natural colors, Morella said, I thought you might want the chance to see them again before you leave. After all, who knows how long you'll be gone? See who? Aurella asked. Morella gestured. Owner crossed the room and opened the door. In walked a small woman with a kind face and simple peasant clothes. Holding her hand was a large man with a mustache, whose bulging muscles contradicted the friendly demeanor. Aurella sucked in a breath to see the two people her heart had yearned for since she left her little town of Lennox. Mom! Dad! She screamed and sprinted across the room. She threw her arms around their necks and cried. Oh, my sweet baby, we've been so worried, Joelle cried. Taryn was too moved for words. He simply stared down at his daughter, tears streaming down his face. Honey, are you crying? Joelle asked, surprised. Yeah, I do that now. Aurella wiped her tears on her sleeve and turned to look at Mavic. He smiled sadly.
Mavic?
Grinning, Taryn walked over and pulled him into a big bear hug.
We've missed you too, and thank you for keeping my princess safe.
Joelle held her arms open. Mavic, come over here. I'm so happy to see you. Mavic walked shyly over to Aurella's mother and let her kiss his cheek and pull him into a bone-crushing squeeze. Aurella guessed his discomfort had less to do with her mother and more to do with the fact that someone was hugging him. It was a pretty rare occurrence. Joelle turned back to Aurella. Are you ready to finally come home? Aurella opened her mouth and closed it again. Her eyebrows came together as she looked down at the floor. Mom, I'm not coming home. Why on earth not? Because of what I am. It's not safe for me to stay. I would only be endangering all our lives. Joelle and Taryn shared a sad, knowing look. But Joelle wasn't willing to concede. We'll find a way to work it out. I have to go, Mom. It's not like I want to. If I got what I wanted, I'd be coming home with you right now. Aurella's voice broke, and she turned away. Taryn knelt before Aurella and placed his large, calloused hands on her shoulders.
I know you want to come home, baby, and I want you to come home too. I keep expecting you to sneak up on me while I'm working. I'll hear the smallest sound and turn around, expecting you to be there with your fierce grin, ready to take on the world.
He smiled with watery eyes.
But you're right, Ella. It's not safe for you back home. It's not even safe for your mother and me.
Aurella felt a stab of fear. Have the Clankers tried to get you? Did they hurt you?
Oh, they tried, but do you really think they'd get past me? Come on, Ella, who taught you everything you know? Taryn gave Aurella a cocky grin. We've been staying in Clovis. And don't worry, your mother loves it there. And I'm getting a lot more business than in Lennox, so I can't complain.
Aurella grimaced, imagining what had happened to make her parents flee, but at least they'd found a safe refuge. I wish you could come with me, but I know you can't, she sighed. I don't think Rashtika's any safer for you than Dovis is for me. I just wish things could go back to the way they were. Aurella looked away again, remembering a time when her life was so much simpler. Look at me. Her mother lifted Aurella's chin. As much as it breaks my heart, I've always known that one day your path would take you away from me. I always knew you were destined for great things, and I firmly believe that you can change the world. And I'm not talking about your powers. I'm talking about you, that wonderful, strong, brave girl I raised. And though it's come sooner than I ever imagined, it's time for you to go out and take on that big, scary world that's calling your name. Just always know that your mother and father love you more than you could ever possibly imagine. We'll think of and pray for you every day because we love you. Never forget that. Joelle's voice cracked, but no more tears fell from her eyes. Aurella saw her mother so clearly in that moment. She'd always thought of her as so gentle and sweet, but now she saw a strong woman, determined to do the right thing, a woman whose love was impossible to contain inside her unassuming frame. She saw an expression on her mother's face that she could only define as fierce, the same look Taryn was so fond of on her own face. Okay, Mom, was all Aurella could manage. I'm so sorry, said Marilla. I know this is hard on all of you. Joelle let go of Aurella, rushed up to Marilla, and threw her arms around her. Thank you for my sweet Ella. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Me too. Marilla smiled with tears in her eyes and hugged Joelle back. That's when Aurella realized that Marilla really did love her, and for the first time, that didn't bother her. She could be loved by two different kinds of mothers, and that was okay. Her mom would always be her mother, but perhaps Marilla could be there in a different way. She and Taryn joined in on the hug, and the only sounds in the room were sniffling and sighs of joy. Mavic smiled uncomfortably.
Well, it's getting a little too touchy-feely for me in here. I'll just... Yep.
He left out the door Taryn and Joelle came in. Aurella wanted to go after him, but 3 sets of arms held her in place. I wish Mavic had what I have, she thought, as she watched him walk away. They left early the next morning. Morella's servants helped them load up 2 horses with enough food and water for 2 weeks, if they were careful. Aurella's dad presented her with a brand new sword he'd made just for her, and her mother cried as she waved goodbye. Morella kissed Mavic's cheek and handed him a folded paper boat.
What's this?
He asked. It's a note. I have some friends who left to Rashtika when the witch hunt started. I believe they made it there safely and can help you when you get there. Don't send it yet. Wait until Rashtika is in view so you don't use up too much energy.
Who do I send it to?
Their names are Helena and Rick. She patted his cheek and took a step back. Good luck. And Mavic, don't pester Aurella too much. Aurella, listen to Mavic. He usually has good instincts. Yes, Morella, they said in unison. They took one last view of their surroundings, their home country, and started off.
Wait! Hold up! Called out a familiar bossy voice. You thought you could leave without saying goodbye?
Aurella was smiling before she turned around to see Alec, Bev, and Kayla sprinting after them. They stopped in front of Mavic's horse. Alec pulled on Mavic's arm and wrestled him to the ground.
You thought you could just leave that easy? Alec grinned, pulling Mavic into a headlock. Mavic laughed. Let go of my neck, man.
Hey, where's that little creep that made me dance like a chicken and then sword fight like a boss? Bev grinned. I'm right here, Aurella laughed. Get down here, little missy. None of my friends leave without a proper goodbye. Aurella dismounted her horse and hugged Bev's waist. Then Kayla took her turn. We saw you guys fighting, said Aurella. You mean you helped us fight? Kayla corrected her. What happened? Asked Mavic. Why were you fighting them? Did something happen? Their smiles faded. Alec choked up. They got brain. Aurella's heart sank. They caught him just as we were about to escape, Kayla whispered. We were running from the palace and one of the guards spotted us and started shooting arrows at us. Brain wasn't fast enough. He was hit in the back, and there was nothing we could do. He died before we even had time to process what had happened. And I don't know, we just sort of lost it. It wasn't fair. I never thought I'd miss his annoying voice telling everyone what to do, but I really do, Bev said in a low voice. He shook his head, his eyes swimming with moisture. I can almost hear him interrupting us right now, saying something like, Grief is illogical. Nothing can be accomplished by one shedding tears over something that they cannot or are unwilling to fix. Tears streamed down Kayla's face, and Mavic pulled her into a hug. I'm so sorry, guys. This is all our fault. No, it's not, Alec said. You didn't do anything. It was them. Alec was shaking with anger, and Aurella felt horrible at how much they'd suffered. If it's any consolation, she said quietly, I think your protesting worked. What do you mean? Kayla asked, wiping her eyes. The queen is calling off the witch hunt. She must have heard your protesting, and it convinced her. You've probably saved a ton of lives. Aurella might have been bending the truth a bit, but she didn't feel one shred of guilt over it, especially seeing their three new friends' eyes filled with hope. Bev cleared his throat. So, where are you running off to? Rashtika, said Aurella. You know where other freaks like us live. Kayla stared at her. There are other witches in Rashtika? Seriously, what do they teach you guys in school? Mavic asked. I thought that was common knowledge. Newsflash, I didn't believe in witches until yesterday. Kayla, I'm not a witch, he said with a smirk. Witches are females. I'm a warlock, and we're way cooler. Hey, frowned Aurella. Well, let's see it then, challenged Alec with a mischievous grin. Because all I've seen you do is unlock a door. It wasn't that impressive. You asked for it. He twitched his fingers. Alec's belt snapped in half, and his pants fell to the ground. Kayla laughed so hard she snorted. Not cool, Alec muttered, pulling his pants back up. So, are you ever coming back? Kayla asked hopefully. Mavic rubbed his neck. I don't know. It's a bit, complicated. What's so complicated? Bev asked. You've got powers. Just stay here and zap anyone that gets in your way. Mavic chuckled. I can't zap people. And anyway, the sooner we leave, the better for everyone else. Apparently you humans get all antsy and bloodthirsty when we're around. You don't make me feel any different, Kayla said. Probably because you're too busy looking at him with googly eyes, Aurella said dryly. Kayla blushed, and Mavic elbowed Aurella. Bev simply laughed. Anyway, Mavic continued, clearing his throat. We've got to get going. Kayla's face fell. She stepped forward and kissed Mavic on the cheek. Don't get yourself killed, okay? Okay, said Mavic, his voice 2 octaves higher than normal. He got back up on his horse, and Aurella followed his example. Hey, Blondie, Bev called out. She's actually a redhead, Kayla whispered. Oh, I mean, hey, Carrots. Aurella laughed. Yes? Any chance you could do that running thing for me again? He eagerly shuffled from foot to foot. That was incredible. That wasn't me before. That was, my friend, Aurella said. But I can do that too. As she and Mavic ushered their horses forward, she manipulated Bev to run beside them. Woohoo! He shouted. Goodbye, my favorite weirdos! Don't be strangers! As soon as Kayla and Alec caught up to Bev, Aurella released the spell. She took one last look as Alec put his arm around Kayla and Bev. A small tear fell down her face, and she watched them wave goodbye. And the two of them pushed their horses faster, north to the unknown. All right, that is the end of that chapter, and we will read the epilogue tomorrow. All right, so your thinking question for this chapter is, Aurella and Mavic need to go and find an heir to the throne. Morella said that they needed to be suitable to ruling a kingdom. So I want you to think of 3 qualities that would make a good king, a suitable heir. All right, and I will see you guys next time for the very last chapter in Aurella the Witch. Bye. How does Mavic talk? That was weird. That's gonna fall. Tape. No. Must have been the birds over now. Must have been good, but we lost it somehow. All right, where was I? Me. Where was I? There's my water bottle. That is empty. Why do I have so many empty water bottles? Guys, there are 4 empty water bottles in here, and none of them have water. Wait. 5. Wait. Oh. 6.